Starting with, we'll understand what is code generation in Playwright. We'll understand what are the advantages and disadvantages of using this code generation offered by the Playwright. The most important disadvantage of using the code generation is you cannot use this code generation for the larger team and the product which has many modules. Let us see how to use the code generation and what are the various options in the code generation. Now, when the test runs, it will be split into multiple builds, depends on the browser as well as the test. So it will be very easy for me to debug later. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the package.json, and under the package.json, under the script section, I'm just going to add a list of scripts. So let me remove this and let me paste it here. Now, let us see what are all the different types of options available in this code generation.
Hello everyone, welcome to Lambda Test. I'm your instructor Vignesh. This video is part of the Playwright TypeScript playlist. As part of this video, let us see what are all the topics we are going to cover. So, we will be covering these topics as part of this video. Starting with, we'll understand what is code generation in Playwright. We'll understand what are the advantages and disadvantages of using this code generation offered by the Playwright. Then we will see how to use this code generation and also what are the various options available in code generation. First, let us understand what is code generation. Code generation, as the name implies, Playwright generates the code for us based on the actions which we do in the browser. So what it means by that? Let's say if I'm opening up a login page, I click on the username field, I enter the username, I click on the password field, I enter the password, and I click on the login button. These entire set of actions will be captured by Playwright tool and will convert the actions into a Playwright script. This is what it's called as the code generation. Now we understood what is code generation. We'll see what are the advantages of using the code generation. The most important advantage is we can easily automate entire end-to-end flow. Let's say we have an end-to-end flow such as login, adding items to the cart, checking out, and doing the payment. This entire flow can be easily automated, like we have to do once manually in the browser. Browser will listen to all the events which we handle and it will automatically convert us as the Playwright code. So it is very easy to automate an end-to-end flow. The second advantage is we don't need to have any requirement of knowing either Playwright tool or even the language per se, which means in this case it's TypeScript. So if you are a newbie to automation, so you're learning the Playwright for the first time along with the language, then in that case Playwright code generation will be very helpful for you to write and explore the different automation suites. Now we understood what are the advantages. We'll see what are the disadvantages of using the code generation. The most important disadvantage of using the code generation is you cannot use this code generation for the larger team and the product which has many modules. Why is that? Because let's say you are working in a project which has many sub modules, then in that case it is very hard to automate all the flows and get everything into a single end-to-end flow. The second major disadvantage is Playwright code generation will not generate and give you a very easy and maintainable code. It will give you the raw code, which means if you execute it for local purposes, it is good, but for longer run, it will not be a very easy maintainable code. And the last important major problem is the Playwright code generator does not pick up the accurate locators for the web element. It will pick up the web element, but it will not follow the locator strategy such as ID, name, like that strategy will not be followed. So now we have understood what is code generation and what are the advantages and disadvantages. Let us see how to use the code generation and what are the various options in the code generation. So I have already created a folder and have installed the Playwright and have also integrated it with the Lambda test. If you don't know how to do this, please watch the previous video where I have clearly explained how to install Playwright and how to integrate it with the Lambda test so that all your tests will be running in the Lambda test cloud. So before we are jumping into the code generation, there are a couple of things which we need to change in the Lambda test setup for us to easily handle them. So the first important thing is, if I go back to the Lambda test dashboard, you can see here it shows the build name as Playwright TS build. Now if I come back to the Lambda test setup, if I scroll down to the capabilities, this is the name which we have given for the build. That is no wrong in that because that's the default value which we copied from the GitHub repository. and here the build name is Playwright TS build. But the problem is we have executed 10 tests in the previous video, and all those 10 tests are relying under this one build. So now you can see all of them are the same test. So it's very hard for me to split and understand which ran against Edge or which ran against Chrome. So I can't able to understand. Similarly, I also can't understand for which test it ran against. So to easily split and understand which test it ran against and which browser it ran against, I'm just going to do a small tweak in this config. What I'm going to do, scroll down in this lambda test setup file and go to the section which is modify capabilities, and as the last line just enter this which is called as capabilities. And what is the capabilities which you have to do? You have to gonna adjust the LT options, and here you're gonna adjust the build because it's the build which we are gonna change the name for. And what is the easy way, Vignesh, to keep the build name for us to easily use it? So put the backticks. So it's not a single quote, it's a backticks. Within that, I'm gonna put dollar symbol and I'm gonna call the browser name. So why am I calling the browser name? Because I want the test to be splitted between browser name and the test case name. So browser name hyphen hyphen followed by I'm gonna call the test name. So now when the test runs, it will be splitted into multiple builds, depends on the browser as well as the test. So it will be very easy for me to debug later. And one last thing which we need to change is here, if I go back to the package.json, in the previous video, you remember we would have used the test script where we would be running npm run test. If I hit this command, it will run against all the browsers. But let's say there is a scenario where I wanted to run specifically to Chrome browser or specific to Firefox browser. In that case, instead of us always going inside this playwright config.ts and commenting out the rest of the config doesn't look good, it should not be done that way. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add some scripts in the package.json. So depends on the scripts I can easily run for the corresponding browser which I wanted for. And also one more thing is, I just noticed that in the GitHub repository which we copied the code from does not have the entire list of all the projects, which means it does not have all the different combinations of browser and the OS. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to remove this for now, and I'm going to paste the code which has the combination of all the browser plus the OS. Do not worry like what will happen if you don't get the code. All this code will be pushed into the GitHub repository, so you can easily use the same codes. So I'm going to paste the entire list. The list is pretty much same as the previous one, but there are additionals to that. For example, here you can see Edge with Mac OS. Similarly, in top you can see the Chrome with latest Mac OS, and similarly Edge with Windows 10 and Chrome with Windows 11, like that, all the additional changes. So these are the different combination of OS and the browsers. Now the last thing which I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the package.json, and under the package.json, under the script section, I'm just going to add a list of scripts. So let me remove this and let me paste it here. Let me explain what this list is. So the first script is win11 Chrome, and here you can see the command npx playwright test hyphen hyphen project, which means I'm passing a flag called project, and within the project flag I'm just passing the Chrome latest win11 at lambda test. If I copy this and I search it here in the playwright config file, I would be having the exact same browser combination here. So which means in my terminal, if I just run instead of npm run test, let's say if I'm running back the command which is, for instance, npm run win11 Chrome. So let's say I'm running this and I already have all the configurations needed for the lambda test. So what it should do is it should run the test. In this case there is no test, but let's say after we finished adding the code generated test, it should run this test in the lambda test browser only for the Chrome and also only for the Windows 11. So here you can see it is running this test, but now the test will fail, saying that there is no test available in the test folder, which is fine. So let me stop this. So these are the two changes which you need to do as part of the previous video so that you can tweak your lambda test build. So now let us jump into the code generation. Now, before we are starting with the code generation, there is one small thing which you need to do it. What is that? So the command to start the code gen is npx playwright Codegen. So this is the command which you need to write to trigger the code generation, which is npx playwright Codegen. So now when I click on enter, it will open two windows for me. What are those two windows, Vignesh? One is the browser and one is the Playwright Inspector. So the actions which I do in the browser will be captured by the Playwright Inspector, and it will give us the written code or the generated code for the Playwright. So let us wait until the browser and the Playwright Inspector opens. So here you can see it opened the Playwright Inspector, and also it opened the default browser, which is the Chromium. Let me keep both side by side for us to easily view them. So here, whatever the actions I do in this window, it will be captured here. Why, Vignesh? Because you can see the recording is enabled. So what is the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paste the URL of our demo website. So the demo website which I'm taking for today is Lambda Test Playground. And here I'm on the login page. So let me copy this URL and let me put it in the URL tab. So let me paste it and click on enter. The moment I did paste the URL, here you can see it automatically wrote the Playwright code for that to navigate to a website. So this is what it's called as the code generation. So let us do all step one by one and let us see the end test. So here, let's say I wanted to enter the email address. So let me click on this email address and I'm typing lambda test playwright@gmail.com. So this is the username. Similarly, I want to enter the password. So I'm clicking on this password field and I'm typing lambda test playwright. I guess the username is lambda test for playwright. My bad. So let me start the flow from once again. Let me close this and start it, because we have to start the flow always from scratch whenever we are tweaking anything in the flow. So let me stop this code gen and let me start the code gen again. So it will open the same Playwright Inspector and Chromium. Let me get the username from here. So this is the username, lambda test for playwright@gmail.com. So let it open the Playwright Inspector and the Chromium browser. It may take a second for it to open. Yeah, it is opening now. So we can see the Chromium browser is getting opened and also the Playwright Inspector, both of them. So let me minimize the browser once again. Yeah. So let me paste the URL one more time. So this is the URL. So let me paste the URL here. And let me start typing the username and password. So for username, I'm going to copy it from the website. So this is the username, which is lambda test for playwright@gmail.com, and the password is lambda test for playwright. So lambda test for playwright. You can create your own customer. So this is my user. You can create your own user by clicking on this new customer in the lambda test website. And I'm going to click on login. So this should log in and take me to the dashboard page. You can see it logged in and it is taking me to the my account page. Let's say I want to click on something. For example, let's say I want to click on home. So it is clicking on home. All the actions I do, you can see it is getting listed here. So now let's say I'm going to search for a product, for instance. So let's say I'm clicking on the search product bar and I'm going to search something. For instance, let's say I'm going to search for, let me click on it once again. For some reason, yeah, it's a bit slow. So I'm going to type as iPhone. So let me type iPhone. So iPhone, let's say 15 for instance, and I'm clicking on enter. So I typed iPhone 15 and I clicked enter. So all these actions will be captured here. You can see I clicked on iPhone 15 and it clicked enter. So let me click on search icon, because I guess enter is not enabled for this website. So when I click on search, you can see it's starting to search and I'm getting some search result. Here it's not having any iPhone 15, but which is fine. So now we can see the entire end-to-end flow which is being captured here as the automation test. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the VS Code, and within this test folder, I'm going to create a new file. So let me right click on this test folder. So I have deleted all the example test pics which came as part of this Playwright installation. So that's why you don't see any tests here under this folder. So I'm going to create a new file and I'm going to give the name to be as code generator test. And the most important thing is you can give any name as you wanted. Always try to start writing the words from the smaller letters because that's the expected structure, and it should be ending with as .spec.ts. This is mandatory. You can't just write as .ts. For example, this is not the right way. So it should be always as .spec.ts because this is the structure which Playwright expects. So I'm going to click on enter. So within this file, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paste whatever the code given by the Playwright inspector. So instead of copying all of them manually, you see here we have a copy button. So click on that copy button and click here for paste. So here you can see that entire action has been pasted here. So technically we wrote an end-to-end Playwright test without even learning on Playwright commands or something. That's the advantage of code generator. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop this code gen. So I'm going to click on Control C. Why am I stopping? Because I already have my test here. So I'm going to run the test and make sure everything is working. So now, as I told, let me go back to the package.json. So if I want to run this test against Windows 11 with Chrome, what I can do, I can simply write it as npm run win11 Chrome. That's it. I'm going to click on enter, and already we made changes in the lambda test setup.ts. So now in the lambda test dashboard, I should be seeing the test getting executed. Also, this time I should get a new build because I'm replace the Playwright TS build name with the new name, which is the combination of browser plus the test file name. So let us wait until the test starts. So let me go back to here. So it may take a second for the test to get started. Once the test is started, now we can see it is running only one test against one worker. Why? Because we have only one spec file, and also I'm asking it to run only against one browser. So if I go back here, so here it should start with the hitting the lambda test website. So let us wait until it starts here. So the test still didn't start it. It just kickstarted the test, so it may take a second for it to start. So here, let me refresh the screen. Once the test started, now I should see a new build here with the name called Chrome ---- and the spec file name. So I guess still the test didn't start. So let me go back to the test. There is a test failed. Let me see what is the reason. I guess the test didn't even started. Let me rerun the test. I guess the test didn't even start in the lambda test. Maybe some intermittent issue or something. Let me run the test one more time. Before executing the test, it just struck me that if I go back to this code generated test, as this is a test which is generated from the Playwright code generator, you can see it has the import test expect from the Playwright test. If you remember what I explained in the previous video, if you want to run your test against to the lambda test, you need to have a different import for the test. So let me remove this test from here and let me add it over here. So import test from lambda test setup. So this is mandatory if you want your test to be hooked up to the lambda test. In case you say, Vignesh, I don't want it to run against lambda test, I want to run it against local. So in that case, what you can do is I'll comment out this code and put back the test here. So what you have to do is you have to go to the playwright config.ts file where I have already commented out all the by default browsers of Playwright such as Chromium and all those things. So now let me uncomment it, and now if I run the test once again as npx playwright test ---- project, and here in the project I'm going to mention as Chromium. Why Chromium? Because Chromium is the browser for inbuilt Playwright. So now if I click on enter, so now in our test you can see the test is pointing to the from the Playwright test one. So now this test will be running locally pointing to the Chromium browser. Once this is completed, I will show how to run it against in the lambda test. So it should start executing the test inside the Chromium browser. So if you wanted to run it against the Lambda test, the only small tweaking apart from other configurations which we did as part of the previous video is you have to import this test from Lambda test. If you don't do that, and if you're asking it to execute into a Lambda test dashboard or the server, it will not work. So you can see it started to run this time, and this time the test should get passed. Why? Because it's running against the Chromium browser. So let us wait until the test execution completes, then we can move forward to run this against to the Lambda test setup. So you can see the test got passed because it ran against to the Chromium. So if you wanted to run it against the Lambda test setup, as I mentioned, remove this and uncomment this one. That's it. That's the only difference. So now let me clear the screen and let me run again npm run win10 chrome or win11 chrome, doesn't matter. It's gonna run against the Windows 10 latest Chrome version. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna go to the dashboard once again of Lambda test, and this time the test should be running against the Windows 10 Chrome. So let us see if the execution has started already. No, the execution is yet to start. So once the execution started, we should be seeing a new build here with the name Chrome hyphen hyphen and what is the test case name. So in this case, the test case name is code generated test. So let us wait until the execution started. So you can see the execution is starting now. That's why it says running one test of one. So now we should see a new build here. Yeah, it started the test already. So let me go back to the Lambda test website. Here you can see it started a new build. If I zoom in, you can clearly see it says, let me do again. So you can clearly see it runs Chrome, which means, as I mentioned, it's the Chrome one, and it also says what is the test case name. So in this case, the test case name is code generated spec.ts. So that is the reason of editing that in the Lambda test setup, so that we can easily see why it's running. So let me open this test. The test got failed for some reason. Let us see what is the failure. So here you can see it ran against the Chromium and with the Windows 10. So there is a failure here. Maybe there is an issue with the website loading or something. So here you can see as part of the Lambda test, it automatically even shows us the video. So it started with the execution, it clicked on iPhone 15. Yeah, everything is passing, but for some reason it's being mentioned as a failure. It could be some intermediate issue, but if you see the video, it is actually executing it. So we have seen how to generate the code generation test by using the Playwright. Now let us see what are all the different types of options available in this code generation. Now, some minutes back, when I copied the code from the Playwright inspector to the file manually, it's not how we do all the time. What I can do is, when I'm starting the code generation itself, I can say that, hey, whatever the code you generate, please put into a certain file, and you can mention the file name. So let us see how to do that. So it's very easy. You can just say npx playwright codegen, and you have to pass a flag which is -o, which means as the output file. So -o, and you have to start putting the folder name followed by the file name. So in this case, I want it to be mentioned in // which means from the root folder under the test folder, and I wanted it to be mentioned as codegen. Let's say I'm giving a different name, auto saved file, something like that, to have a different file name, .spec.ts. Now when I click on enter, it will again open me the Chromium browser and again the Playwright inspector. But the advantage here is, this time I don't have to manually copy and paste the code. Whatever the code is being displayed in the Playwright inspector, the same code will also be auto saved into this file. So let us wait until we are getting the Chrome code inspector. So before it opens, let me just copy this URL because I need this URL to launch the browser. So you can see again it opened the Playwright inspector as well as the browser. So let me keep again them side by side. I'm not going to do the end-to-end flow. I'm just going to do a couple of things. So first let me paste the URL. You will be seeing it started with await page.goto. And let's say this time I'll click something else. For example, let's say I'm clicking on new customer, continue. So it should go to the new customer page. And let's say in the first name, I'm going to enter as Vignesh. And in the second name, I'm going to enter as Srinivasa Raghavan. So let's say this is our test. Now, if you see, it generated 10 lines of code, including import. Now, I don't need to manually copy it. You can see it automatically created a file for me with the same name as what I have given here, which is Codegen autosave file. And if I open it, it will have the exact same 10 lines. So whatever I do here, additionally, that also will get added. For instance, let's say I'm adding one more line. For example, the email vignesh123@gmail.com. So you can see if I go back to the VS Code, you can see it is getting added. So whatever the actions I do back there, it will be getting opened here. So this is what we primarily use in order to generate the code and automatically paste it in the file. Let me stop the code generation once again and we'll show you the next option. So the next important option is, as of now, whenever the code generation is opening, the Playwright Inspector along with the browser always is the Chromium. Let's say you wanted to open a WebKit or you wanted to open a Firefox. Again, you can do that by passing the command. So let me clear the console, and the command is npx playwright Codegen. So until this, always this is a standard way, followed by space hyphen browser, and you can mention the browser name in case if I wanted to automate it by using Firefox. So if I give hyphen browser Firefox, focus on this taskbar area, this time it will open the Playwright Inspector, plus it will also open the Firefox browser, not the Chromium browser. Previously it did open the Chromium browser, but this time it will open the Firefox browser. Why? Because I have asked to open the Firefox browser. You can ask me, Vignesh, is there any real change by automating from the Chromium browser or automating from the Firefox browser? Not technically. There is no major changes in that. But let's say your product or your project expects you to always automate only from the Firefox or only from always from the Chromium or Chrome. In that case, you can open in such a fashion. So now you should be seeing, it should be opening the Firefox browser. So here you can see it opens the Firefox browser. This is not the Chromium, this is a Firefox browser. And similarly, you can see it opened the Playwright Inspector. I'm not going to do any automation here, but you can see it opened in this way. Similarly, you can also ask it to open with WebKit too. So the command is exactly the same. The only difference is here you have to pass the WebKit. So npx playwright Codegen hyphen browser WebKit. Similarly, you can also change the viewport size of your Playwright Inspector which is being opened. So for instance, npx playwright hyphen Codegen, what I can say is I can say as viewport, which means I wanted to reduce the size or increase the size, something like that. And what is the viewport size? So viewport size equal to, I want to mention the size, let's say 800 comma 600, like I'm putting into a smaller size. Now if I hit enter, you will be seeing the Playwright Inspector opens along with the browser, but the browser will not be into the landscape or a massive size. Instead, it will be in the shrink format. So let's say you wanted to generate an automation test case and also making sure that it is working in the smaller sizes in the resolution format. For example, opening up in the tab or opening up in the mobile device, like that also you can do that. So you can see it opens the Playwright Inspector. This time you can see it opened the browser in the 800 into 600 format. Similarly, let me cancel this and show you the last option in the code generation, which is opening for corresponding to a mobile device size. So what is meant by that? So if I type npx playwright Codegen, I'll remove this viewport and instead I am going to pass a tag called device. So not devices, it's device. So hyphen device, and I'm going to pass a device name. For instance, let's say I'm going to pass iPhone 11 Pro. I'm just giving a random device name, iPhone 11 Pro. P should be capital, iPhone 11 Pro. Now, what will happen is, again, this time the browser will be opened in the exact viewport size of an iPhone 11 Pro. Let's say the iPhone 11 Pro has a viewport size of 720 versus 300. I'm just giving a random number. So in that case, it will be opening the browser in the exact same version. So let us see if it's opening in that format. So you can see the browser is getting open, and this time you can see it is opening up the device in the exact same size of a device. Now, what is the advantage of doing so? Let's say you wanted to check if your browser or the website which you're developing is compatible with different browser resolutions. So in that case, you can do it in this fashion. Now, the last thing is, you can ask me, Vignesh, how can I remember all these commands? It's very hard for me. I can remember until npx playwright Codegen, it's very easy, but how to remember the devices or how to remember the -o? You don't have to remember anything. So what you can do is, whenever you wanted to know what are all the different commands offered by the code generation, what you can do is, you can just type npx playwright Codegen, and after typing the base command, just type it as --help. So this --help will show you all the possible commands what I just explained, so that you don't need to remember it on top of your mind. So now I press enter, it will show me all the commands one by one, how to change the viewport, how to change the devices, how to copy, instead of copying and pasting the code, how to automatically create a file. So you can see it shows me all the options here. If I scroll down, you can see -o or -output. This will save the generated script to a file. Target, in case if you wanted to change into a specific language, instead of TypeScript you wanted to have in Java, you can even do that. Similarly, you have the device, as I mentioned, what is the device name you wanted to do. You wanted to include a proxy, like that. You have many options here, so you can explore this. So this is how we will do with the code generation. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you have got a very insightful video on how to use the Playwright code generation. So thank you everyone for watching this video.